Cool, we're live. So I was thinking, I waited a sec because I was thinking, wait, where's Jesse's voice coming in to introduce the episode? But obviously we're back. So yeah, welcome back to Play to the Whistle. Obviously we're missing last week, so apologies for that. But we're back this week to obviously talk about a number of the Premier League games. Again, it's been a interesting weekend of a lot of penalties. We're just gonna get straight to it. Where are we starting? First of all, how you doing, cuz? How you
I'm
doing,
good, man.
T-Dot?
I'm good. I can't complain. Obviously, football wise, it's been a bit mad, but yeah, man, can't complain, man. We're still churning out results, but apart from that, away from football, yeah, man, I'm good, man. What you saying?
Yeah, I'm good. Like it was a weird weekend, obviously, with the football because it was very much the teams one that you'd expect to win, but s- interesting still. Lower leagues as well. I know we're not really going to touch on them today, but there were some banging games. I think Forest Green drew 5-5 this weekend. I think they were 4-1 up at one point. It was a mad game.
Yeah.
Like I said, they're the funnest team to watch in the football league at the moment. But we're gonna start off with with Everton, who obviously giving away Christmas presents at the moment. Um, I'm gonna let you start with this one, cuz because I know obviously Everton sort of close to you in terms of geography and stuff, and you've obviously been watching them obviously quite a bit over the last like couple of years.
Mm.
How do you find the game and what's going on with them? So obviously we haven't spoken about the Everton Arsenal game, but yeah, how did you find the game first of all?
I think even going back to that Everton Arsenal game just very briefly, I thought they were quite lucky in some ways. I thought Arsenal threw away their chances in that game. But I feel like that's Everton at the moment as a whole. They're just kind of riding on a bit of luck, or they're riding on a bit of a hope that they might get a result out of something. But if I'm honest, personally, I think they're in trouble. I think we got to be honest and say they're in trouble. You look at the fact that they haven't got Calvert Lewin, who's been injured for a long period of time now, which is a
Yeah,
big chunk of the season. You then look at the fact that obviously Rondon scores today, but before then he wasn't necessarily doing anything. They still got like the players like Iwobi, Fabian Delph, even Gomez. You could probably put him in there as well. Tom Davis is still there. Keane is still a centre back. Mason Holgate's still there. Jordan Pickford's
mm,
okay every now and again. So that team needs a massive overhaul, a restructure, everything. And obviously Rafa wasn't really first choice when they got there. They wouldn't have, obviously the history with Liverpool and Everton still kind of burns with some Everton fans. But yeah, they should be lucky. He's a very good manager. But I just think now that the cracks are definitely showing for Everton. And you saw that in today's performance with Palace as well. Palace were dominating that game throughout from first half. They dropped off second half, but definitely for the first half, I thought Crystal Palace could have had at least 3 or 4 goals. Jordan Ayew had a very good chance in the first half as well. Conor Gallagher was pulling the strings for Palace as well. So I look at that Everton team, and it worries me in terms of from an Everton perspective because they haven't got anything on that bench apart from the young kid. I think his name's Gordon. Um,
yeah, he's done
he,
well to be fair.
yeah, the last couple of games I've watched of Everton, he's done very well. Impressive, kind of with Richarlison. Obviously, going back to the Arsenal game, I think he scored 3 goals in total, but obviously the 2 were offside. But even when he comes off, I mean, I think he came off today as well, and just obviously you want to see every player show that sort of determination and that fight, but sometimes you just got to come off, man. Like if he wasn't getting the service, he wasn't really in the game today, and
Mm,
that's the ultimate reason why Rafa brought him off. And yeah, he sulks a lot and whatnot, but you just got to come off. Sometimes it's not your day, and obviously
yeah,
Rondon coming into that game scoring. But I did think Palace like I said, they dropped off second half. They allowed Everton back into the game, making it 2-1. Yes, they score third goal, but even when it's 2-1, you sort of thinking to yourself, Everton might get a draw. So
yeah, yeah.
it could have gone either way. But over the 90 minutes, Crystal Palace were definitely a dominant team, as impressive Zaha as always as well. So, yeah, big game to lose for Everton, and obviously massive game for Palace to get 3 points as well. But what do you think about Patrick Vieira, Crystal Palace? How do you think they're doing at the moment?
Yeah, it's funny because obviously I think is it that they lost three on the bounce, something like that before today. And look, that's just form. Like sometimes you're in form, sometimes you're out of form.
Mm.
I think with the games that they lost, they won. Wasn't a disgrace. I think today, to be fair, they played quite well. They were good value for their win. I know they dropped off a little bit in like you say in the second half, but I always felt that even on a counter attack, they had loads of chances anyway. Second half to put that game to bed, and obviously they did eventually. So I think they could be quite happy with how they've played, and then in the game today, and also just the even the games that they've lost recently or haven't won. I think that they're not like getting they're not getting smashed. Do you know what I mean? Like
Mm.
they're doing all right. I think was it Leeds? Was that the game? Was that the last minute penalty? I can't remember if that was the Leeds game. Like was it Rafinha right at the end? I think scores the pen to win them the game. The Villa
Yeah,
game,
yeah,
is that Steven Gerrard's first game for Villa.
for Villa.
Things like that are going to happen, and it's different to Everton because Everton are getting battered in the games that they're losing. Like was it 5 against Watford, 4 against Liverpool? Feel like there was obviously 3-1 today. Like they're getting murdered. So I think that's just what you're going to get with a young team. Bit of inconsistency, but so far so good. They're not going to be scrambling around in relegation. This is a good place for them.
Yeah, I have to agree. I think obviously when Patrick Vieira comes in after Roy Hodgson, there's always going to be that transitional period anyway. But I think he's brought in the right players as well. Um, Conor Gallagher, like I said before, for me, is one of the, if not the best player for Palace, he's probably one of the best players of the Premier League at the moment as well. Um, but yeah, even the likes of Zaha, I thought again very, what he brings to a game anyway. And I thought again Palace deserved the win today. I just thought that they were overall the better team as well. So yeah, I can't really see them struggling this season. What are they, 12th now?
Mm,
I think 19 points. They've got some relatively good fixtures coming up
yeah,
over the next
yeah,
couple of weeks as well. So I think they got Southampton in the midweek, and then I think they got Watford at the weekend. So
yeah.
two games up on
They're
the back of,
winnable. Yeah.
yeah, the way they've kind of been playing their games, you'd expect them to kind of get something out of them too. So yeah, Palace for me are going in the right direction. I don't think we can really say that about Everton. What do you think needs to change at Everton in terms of whether it's the manager or the style of play, or what do they need? Does he need a transfer window to bring some players in?
Yeah, I think I've said this before, but I think it'd be stupid to sack him because what you're gonna do, you're gonna sack him and bring in a manager who's gonna stabilize them, help them finish mid-table. You might as well just keep him. If he was
Mhm.
if they sacked a manager that was performing like that and he was available, they would bring him in. So you might as well just keep him. I think he needs a window. I'm worried defensively for them because they don't have a bad defense and they concede in a lot. But I think that's just because going up top, they there's no pressure. I know Richarlison, we talked about him. He's not a bad player. He like at Arsenal. He got a hat trick of goals. I know a few of them are disallowed, but he's good. When you're missing someone like Calvert-Lewin, I think I think you pointed this out at the beginning of the season. They need bodies. Like they need someone else that's going to come in an offensive position. That's going to be a first teamer. That's going to, for
Mhm.
example, like if he was available, like a Harvey Barnes, for example. Do you know what I mean? Like someone's going
Mhm.
to come in and can play because he's good enough to fit in a team. Maybe not so much a striker because Calvert-Lewin, when he's fit, he's going to play. But just someone in them attacking positions. I would just keep. I'm looking at a table now. They've won 5 this season, which is more than most in the bottom half of the table. And 2-3 wins. They're like eighth or ninth. Do you know what I mean? Leicester were where they were, a month ago. So I think they'd be stupid. I think there's loads of like stuff out there about the hierarchy and stuff. That's what needs to change. But if you're smart, you'll keep Rafa in the job. You give him about 20 million in the window or 30 million just to try and bring something in, offload guys like a Wobie or whatever, and just let him see out to the end of the season. They're not going to get relegated. They're not worse than Newcastle, Norwich, Southampton. They're not going down. So give him some peas, let him stabilize, and then can bring in a few more players in the summer. What's your thoughts? Because I know you're thinking the fans are turning. I know you've been saying this, but what what are your thoughts on what's going to happen? What would you do with that situation?
I think it's difficult because I think he hasn't had a transfer window at Everton, but like I said, the fans or some fans didn't want him in the club at the first place.
Yeah.
And if you look at, I think it might have been Brentford after the Brentford game, the fans were hurling abuse at him at the end of the game. So that kind of tells you already that the fan base, and I've said this on here before, the fans are the ones that normally can get you sacked from a job. It's not results or players or whatever. It's normally the fans that have got the loudest voice when it comes to managers being sacked. And the fact that he's obviously ex-Liverpool doesn't help. The fact that they have spent money prior to Benitez coming in, albeit another manager was in place then. But I just think he needs a window. I think if you can get a window, get some players in January, 1 or 2. It doesn't have to be a massive overhaul in January because it's difficult to get, attract players at this time of the season as well. So I think if you can bring 1 or 2, I don't know who. I don't. Ideally, you need some more attacking players. I think defensively, they're not solid defensively, but I think they're okay. Like you said, I think they've only conceded, I'm going to say 28. I think they've conceded this season, which is a lot. But when you look at the other teams around them,
it's not
in fact,
far
no,
off.
I'm going to take that back. Actually, that is quite bad.
Do you know what it is? It's because they've had a few hammerings. Like if you take away the Watford and Liverpool games,
yeah, but they shouldn't be getting. I mean,
I know.
Really
It's ifs and buts. I know. You know what I mean though. Like that's 9 goals in 2 games. If when you space it out over then the other 14 games, it's not
too bad.
No,
it's not too bad. But they did get hammered, so we got to go on what the goal difference is. But true. In terms of me personally, I think I'd bring in someone like you said. I don't think Iwobi's anywhere good enough quality. I don't think Tom Davies is any good of quality, even when he's playing. I know he's not in the team at the moment, but obviously the Calvert-Lewin's a big loss for any team that's kind of around that sort of table position anyway. But they haven't got enough up front. I don't think Solomon Rondon's the answer. Yes, he scored today, but the games I watched prior to that, he just doesn't look like he's going to score goals. Obviously, Damari Gray's brilliant, and I think him and Andres Townsend are the 2 players that are key for Everton at the moment, and they need someone in the box. And a lot of the time, Richarlison isn't the person that's doing that. And I've always said that I don't think he's a number 9 or something. I think he's better on the left side of the 3 up front. So they need someone who can come in and put the ball in the back of the net. And I think that's all they're missing. If they had someone that was scoring goals, albeit that they're getting thrashed, 4 or 5 nils every now and again. But some of the games they're playing, they shouldn't really be losing them. They've got enough about them in that midfield is probably the weakest part about them. And obviously when Calvert-Lewin's back, I think they'll show what they can do in that sort of attacking third. But until he's back, it's looking a bit peak for them.
Last thing I'll say on them, if and it would never happen, but they just go to United, Lingard, Martial, and Van der Beek, that would sort it out for them. Honestly, yeah, they finished, but United won't do that because they're rivals, and that's what Wood would say. But even if they got Martial, to be fair, I don't know if Martial would go, but that's he can play up front when Calvert-Lewin's out, and he can play left as well.
It's not a bad shot. Anyway, it's not a bad shot at all.
Hopefully he can see it until New Year. Yeah.
Let's talk about my favourite team, Chelsea.
I'm gonna let you kick off with that one.
Do you know what I'm going to start off by saying? I'm going to say this because I remember on here, I think it was only a couple of weeks ago, and I said we're winning games, but we're not playing the best football, and it's worrying me. And I can't remember if it was you or Jesse, but one of you said, "But you're top of the league," and I think it might have been Jesse. Someone said, "Oh, but you're top of the league."
Sounds like a Jesse comment.
You haven't really got anything to worry about, and now hopefully people can see what I've been trying to say for a long time, that we're winning games, or we have been winning games, but it's not comfortable and it's not convincing, and we're seeing that now. I mean, I don't think I've been on Play to the Whistle for. I don't think I was here for the West Ham.
No.
So even going back before then, you can go back to Burnley, you can go back to the United game, you can go back to Watford when we nearly drew with Watford 2-1. You can go back to the game just gone, Leeds, like we nearly lost or drew to Leeds. Zenit. There's so many examples of and what I put it down to is the fact that we have had a lot of injuries. We've had, obviously, you look at Kante's been out the game, Kovacic has been out. We've lost Mason Mount for bits of that. Lukaku's been out. Reece James has been out. Trevor Chalobah's been out as well. But they're excuses, if I'm being honest, because we've still got enough about that team to win, especially a Watford who, yes, pressed us very well and dominated parts of that game. But in terms of the squad that we've got, we should be beating those kind of teams. We shouldn't be struggling and relying on a last minute penalty against Leeds United, which Leeds played very well. They had moments in that game where you did think they might go on to win this, and then obviously they bring it back to 2-2, and anything's possible. So I look at that. I look at those kind of games, and as a Chelsea fan now, I'm not worried in terms of our top four or title challenge. I'm not worried about that because I still think we're in contention for both of them. But games like that tells me a couple of things, that we can't really rely on someone like who didn't play, but Saul Niguez. We haven't got someone like him he's a good player. He's a good player, but he doesn't fit the Chelsea way that we're trying to do things. That's the first thing. So it's a shame that we haven't got someone that we can bring off the bench. And yes, we're going to have Kovacic back eventually after his COVID thing, and Kante's coming back into form. But it's just worrying to see that we're kind of slipping away slowly, and we're kind of pushing these little wins out here and there. But it's still not convincing. We're not clicking. And I've said that all along. Something defensively isn't clicking. You look at Mendy last couple games prior to the Leeds game, and something ain't clicking. Like defensively, we're playing out from the back and we're making silly mistakes. We saw that against West Ham as well. I mean, we didn't touch on it on here, but I mean, Mendy made Jorginho was the at fault for the pass, but then Mendy's just got to kick that out row Z against West Ham. So those things happen in football. I mean, I'm not trying to say he's a bad goalkeeper, but those things cost you games, and we've got to iron those kind of things out, especially going into this busy period. I think we've got a game every 4 days in December.
Yeah.
So it's a busy period. We've got injuries. We've got the Club World Cup coming up as well. Obviously, we're still in the Carabao Cup as well. So there's a lot to play for, but we've got to be on the ball every week now. Every week's like a must-win game for us, which is weird.
Do you see? The thing with that is, I haven't watched Chelsea play like for quite a few games. I didn't watch the Leeds game, but I've watched most of the other ones. I do agree that definitely there could be an improvement in the performances. I don't think it's been bad. It's just not been good enough at times. But I'm looking at a lot of things. I'm thinking the sides that you have struggled against, West Ham were in good form at that time. They beat Liverpool this season. They've beat quite a few teams. The Watford game, yeah, okay, that one you can say. Leeds are a good team. Like I think we're thinking, guys in the top three, Man City, Liverpool, Chelsea should be just slapping teams. I think a 3-2 at home to Leeds, it's not ideal you're conceding that amount of goals, but getting a win against Leeds it's still a good result. You should be getting it, but it's a good result. And I look at what the table looks like at the moment. So we're not even halfway. Most of you, I say you, man, like Man City, Liverpool, Chelsea, around the 36, 37, 38 points. On that trajectory, you're all heading for about 90 points, which is all like championship winning form. So I just think the standard is so high that's set by you three teams that, especially when you're not top, it then starts to look bad. But I generally think that actually these are good results. You're going to lose a couple of games, but I know what you mean about the performances. I think the performances could be better, but I don't know. I still think you guys are okay. But personally, I think there's both sides. The performances, about the results and the teams you're playing, the teams you beat, and the squad depth you've got, the games you coming up. I think you're just out of form at the moment, personally.
Yeah, the reason I say we should be beating that Leeds team, that's a team without Calvin Phillips. There isn't any Patrick Bamford in there. I think they had Rafinha, who brilliant player, but Dan James up front. Like these we should be beating them convincingly based on the form, like you just mentioned as well. We should be beating them easily, in my opinion. we rested a lot of players
Yeah,
in the midweek game as well. Let's not forget that we had a whole different. I think we made 8 changes to the team that played against Zenit. So a lot of these players were rested as well. So
it
I
is
mean,
true.
I'm not worried in terms of the title challenge or
Yeah.
top four. That doesn't worry me. But it's just, again, like I said a few weeks ago, when it comes to the big games, we do turn up normally. We like to play the big boys. But when it's Leeds and Watfords and those kind of teams, we don't. Not saying that we're not up for the challenge, but I'm just saying that we do tend to
Struggle.
switch off a lot in those kind of games. And West Ham are in good form, I agree with you. But again, we could have easily won that game if it wasn't for the mistakes that we made in that game as well.
No, it's true. I wonder when Lukaku's fit, because I know like when he's starting games, because I think the next 4 games you've got are teams that like should be dealing with, and then the kind of teams that even if Lukaku doesn't perform in the big games in a way we would like, I think that includes everybody would like to see him. He definitely he bangs against some of the teams that are in the sort of top parts of the table. So I think because I looked at the lineup that you had yesterday, it's pretty much the same team that you had last season. And I'm thinking about the last time you man won a league, and it was with a number of those players, but not I know you won a Champions League last season, but I don't think we could sit here and hand on heart and say you were the best like team in England and the best team in. I know you won a Champions League, but you know what I mean. Like on paper, there are probably other teams you're thinking actually that when I watched that team, that was a top a top team in Europe. I think you were a good team in Europe. So I think that result, the points that you've got when once Lukaku's fit, I think there's, again, I always say November's the best time to go to have a bad patch of form because you've got international break, you've got a couple games there. You want to hit a bit of form in December and then you want to get it later on. So, and Liverpool will have theirs, and Man City, they were they weren't fortunate to win yesterday, but they they were fortunate in a penalty. I think if that makes sense. Like it's quite easy that they might not have got that and that got to finish 0-0. They look quite blunt up top. So, but I hear what you're saying. I can imagine as a Chelsea fan, it's probably quite frustrating because you're looking at that team, you're thinking we should be dealing with these man, especially with them out. So we'll see anyway. But entertaining game as always with Leeds, and you know, hopefully with them. I think that they're doing all right at the moment, but hopefully they'll pick up a few more points. They're unfortunate to lose it late on.
Let's go to your specialist subject,
A
cuz.
specialist subject.
To be fair,
Covering.
I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna be honest. I didn't get to see all the game, so I'm gonna leave this one with you. But it seems like obviously United, the change in management, which has been United fans have been crying out for, the change in the management seems to be working at the moment.
Mm.
But give me your thoughts on United, and obviously they look like they're pushing up the table a bit now. There's a bit more structure in terms of their play at the moment. But give me your thoughts on United.
Yeah, so because I don't think I've actually talked on the appointment since like it's all been confirmed and everything. So ironically, I watched the game yesterday, and all I kept getting from people was abuse. Like, "Oh, I thought you didn't support them anymore. Like, why are you watching their games?" It's like, "Oh, I'm just watching football." I also watched commentary Huddersfield yesterday as well. Like, yeah, it's getting bare abuse, but um, I mean, the game yesterday, it's another one of those. Norwich, they're not they were not a great team under Falk. For he just wants to play a certain style. Dean Smith is coming. They're playing much better. They're playing with a lot more ferocity, a lot more physicality. They're actually playing. They can play, and we've seen as Villa teams have been able to do that as well, right?
Mm.
So they played well. They should have got the 3 points yesterday, if I'm honest. They played well enough to win, at least for a draw. The penalty obviously was a penalty, and United didn't play badly. I would say I think it's just one of those games where when you're pretty much a week with a new manager, you've already lost five. You've lost a third of your games this season. You've been under a regime where there's no structure and you can just do what you want. You're going to have games like that, but it's all about the 3 points. So you can see that there is a little bit more of a pattern. I know what's his face, Gary the idiot, was talking on Sky Sports about, oh, there's not intensity. So, and he's really trying to throw the manager under the bus. There is an issue, obviously, I think, with the players just switching off at times. And the same issue that I've been harping on for about the last 18 months, and particularly now this season that Ronaldo's here, Bruno Fernandes lacks composure. So that called United yesterday. Anytime he got the ball, he was very wasteful with it. It's useful if you're at home and you're playing against teams that are sitting back because you're going to keep getting it, but it wasn't sticking. Ronaldo probably had one of, I'd say, his worst games in a United shirt. I know he scores the penalty. He has a couple of chances, but he just kept giving the ball away. And when I look at your Chelsea's, Liverpool's, Man City's, even like your West Ham's as well, they've got guys that can, where the ball sticks when it's up front, or guys that can chase it down, hold it up. Ronaldo, as good as he is, doesn't really offer that anymore, which I know anyone who's not biased can see that. So the ball just kept coming back, which wasn't helpful. And then you had Rashford, Ronaldo, Fernandes on the pitch. Sancho then came off for Greenwood. So you got like four strikers basically not really wanting to do that tracking back. So that's where they fell afoul. But overall, you can see that I think the players that have a footballing brain are playing much better under the new manager now. So like Fred, you've seen he's not a bad player, but he's a player who plays in his head quite a lot, and he's an intelligent guy. So that's why he's become a main player. Same with McTominay. You see him. A lot of people are on the fence with him, but he's quite an intelligent player, and he's played in a multitude of different positions. So when you watch him play, you can see that, and that's coming out now a lot more. The difference is with almost someone like Rashford, who I still think is a good player, but his decision making is atrocious. So yesterday, every time he was on the ball, he kept giving it away, making bad choices. And hopefully, whether it's Ranić or another manager, he'll be a bit more competent. So I don't think there's going to be fireworks, because I think there's a mentality issue with United in terms of pressing the ball and playing that intense football. I don't think some of those players have it in them. But what you'll see is more organisation defensively. And as you know, obviously Chelsea, and especially the Mourinho and the Ancelotti days, to be fair, you can win games with strikers, but you win stuff with strong defenses, and that's 2 clean sheets now. Yes, David De Gea was man of the match and he was really good, but Lindelof was actually, until he came off yesterday, he played really well, which I was surprised at. And Maguire's less rubbish than he used to be. Sorry, that's the only way I could describe it. But he's not playing as badly as he was. And you're seeing Bailly come in, and so you're seeing defensively, actually, it's a lot better. And he's also playing Dalot and Tellers, who then come in and provide something offensively and are a little bit more aggressive. Then Luke Shaw can be very kind of, I want to press forward, but I can't be bothered to like stay wide and actually cover that left space. And Wan-Bissaka, who's quite badly out of form at the moment. So that was my thoughts on United in the sort of past week and yesterday. I think, Norwich probably should have won, but it's when you win and you're not playing well, and you're fifth in the league, a point behind West Ham, who you're probably going to overtake. That's not a bad position to be in at the beginning of December. Well, what's your thoughts on? I'm going to ask you about your thoughts on what you've seen so far from United and what you've kind of heard, and are you worried that if you drop points in a few games or you go to the World Club Championship, that United might be hot on your tails?
I think this season's objective, I think, for United would be just to get the top 4. I think you look at the 3 teams, like you mentioned, City, Liverpool, Chelsea. They kind of seem like, yes, we're probably not in the best form. Liverpool might dip in form. City are slow starters anyway, so you expect them to keep momentum now. But I just think, for me, I have seen a massive, not a massive change, but a considerable amount of change from what Ollie was trying to get these players to do to what Ralph Ragnick's getting the players to do now as well. And I think you look at, like you mentioned, Fred. I think I watched Fred in one of the games midweek, and I think he was arguably man of the match, and even probably yesterday he could have probably got that as well. So him, McTominay, who I've always thought McTominay's a really good player, and same with Fred. I thought they're both very good players. It's just the way that they were being asked to play together, and I don't think that's always worked. Definitely. So I think now you're seeing someone come in and actually give them a role that suits them a bit more better, and probably just even off the field, some of the training that they're probably getting as well. I think that's definitely something that's helped both of them. I get your point about Maguire. I don't. If I'm honest, I don't think he was fully fit when he came back. I still think he's
Mm,
an okay centre back. I think from
mm,
going back to the Leicester game a few weeks ago, I think you could tell that he wasn't fully fit then.
yeah,
Maybe he's
yeah,
getting that
that's fair.
fitness back now, but I do get your point in terms of he's okay. He does have the has it in his locker to make a lot of mistakes at times as well. So we have to call that out. But I think in terms of going forward, I agree with you. I thought Ronaldo. I mean, look, Ronaldo's come back to try and, for me, have that sort of last dance Michael Jordan kind of thing, and do that kind of win something with United, maybe just one last trophy sort of thing.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I don't think he's going to be. I mean, he was never brought in to be the answer for the next 2 or 3 years, in my opinion. I don't think he's there to do that. I think he's there
mm,
to sell shirts and to try and win a trophy of some sort with United.
yeah,
So
yeah,
if he does that, then mission accomplished. But in terms of like Greenwood and Rashford, I thought Rashford was very. I don't know. Again, I don't think he's fully fit. I don't think he's been fully fit for 2 years. There's something, whether it's the injuries that he's had or the surgeries after the injuries or the fact that he's, people talk about he's trying to be, feed the families and all that stuff off the field, which is great. But I don't think you can really bring that into the footballing world. I just
mm,
think, for me personally, I just think he's just not fully fit. He's never hit that fitness. And sometimes when you have injury after injury back to back, or you're playing through an injury, you never really hit that peak, that
yeah,
form again anyway. So it could just be that. It could be a factor of things. It could be the fact Ollie was trying to get him to do something he didn't. There's so many things you
mm,
could put it down to. So um, overall, I'm impressed with what's happened over the last couple of weeks. I think the fact that obviously I think Michael Carrick's left the sort of
yeah, yeah. He's gone
structure
now.
now as
Yeah,
well. So I think that's probably a good thing. As much as I know a lot of the I think some of the United players and United fans weren't really happy with that. But I think sometimes when you want to change something, you've got to just get rid of it. Even if it's something good, you've
yeah.
got to get rid of it
Just
and
got
just
the
bring.
house. Yeah,
Yeah, you got to restart, and I think that's what they're doing at the moment with United. I think give him this season, maybe bring in one or two players. I know Martial wants to, from what I've been reading, he wants to leave. He's probably not happy with the amount of game time he's getting. So
yeah,
he goes. That brings in an option to bring someone else in January or the end of the season. But I think we'll see a real overhaul. We'll see that real sort of what his intentions are.
yeah.
Because he's only got it. Has he got it only to the end of the season?
Yeah, he's interim, and there's talks of him maybe being extended. But I think the wise thing to do would be just. I think I said this before. Just stick with the plan. He's in interim. Spend this whole period finding the manager you want. Get it sorted early, so everybody
Mm,
knows where they stand, and then press on with that. Whilst that's happening, Ranić can then reach out to his contacts. You already know that he's this is actually the best possible scenario because he can see the team and he
mm,
knows where the gaps are. And this is what I was saying when Ollie came in. Ollie, the best transition would have been to move Ollie into that kind of director of football or whatever role, because actually he's very good at attracting players, bringing guys in. There was a lot of young players I think that would have taken to him, and that's so they're basically doing what they should have done originally, but they've got a specialist in that, and I think he'll be a really good guy to see that process through. So I think just stick with that, because if they don't, you're going to have this guy in charge. He's going to be trying to run the club and then manage the team, and you're going to have the same issues existing where there's who's he answering to. Whereas if someone's answering
mm,
to him and you've got a manager that can just coach, everyone's a specialist in what they're doing, and
mm,
maybe there'll be some change. You're not going to have
mm,
Ronaldo come in, stunting Greenwood's development, and having Martial pack his bags. As good as Ronaldo's been, but it's come at the consequence of the team.
mm.
The last thing actually I just want to say before we think about moving on. So I've said this to Jesse, and I don't want it to come as a surprise. I have said, and I know you're going to laugh at me. Don't be surprised. Not that it's going to happen, but don't be surprised if you see United get close to the Champions League this season. It's very open,
Yeah,
and
I don't think that's a bad thing to say.
yeah, I wasn't sure in it because some people are like what, but just looking at what's available in the squads, a potential signing. This guy's got previous. I know it was a long time ago, but he knows it's not like he's never managed in the Champions League like Ollie. Like he knows the Champions League quite well. You could see if if top four is secure, like they're not going to win the league, but top four is going to be calm, you could see with fans in the stadium, as long as COVID doesn't interrupt that, and the right kind of draw. Because it's only, I was saying to Jesse, only I'd only be worried about Liverpool if I was another team that Champions League, because Liverpool can wipe the
Not
floor.
Bayern. You won't be worried about Bayern.
The thing, what I always say with these clubs where they play in leagues that aren't competitive is, come the end of the season when they won the league and they're resting players and they're only playing once a week, it gets a bit difficult. So I know them and Paris played one of the years. I think it was the COVID year, and I think that's probably why. But other than that, unless the leagues are competitive, that's why you'll always generally see like a Real Madrid, a Chelsea, Man City, Liverpool, like those teams will win the Champions League because they're having to play at 100% game in, game out for the whole 2 months. So that's why, not that they won't win it, but as a team, Chelsea, Liverpool, Man City, even United will look at Bayern and think, we can beat these. It's only Liverpool, I think, shit, I don't want to play them. Could be a bit long. Like, this could be done by the first half of the first leg. All the other teams, with no disrespect, but you'd always think as a United team, you've got a good chance of getting a result, and you'd fancy your chances against them other sides. So, remains to be seen. They'll probably get like someone really hard, like in like Atletico Madrid, and get slapped up like 1-0 in each leg and be done by February. But anyway.
We'll have to see, man. It's not a bad shout, though. It's not a bad shout at all. I think the thing with, and I said this on another podcast, but the thing with the Champions League is it doesn't matter what team you come against, because you could come against a PSG who just don't want it on the day. And we've seen that, no one really gave Chelsea a chance until we got to like semi-final stage last season. So, and then even when we got to the final, it was all about, City and the team, Pep. Yeah. So even being an underdog, it can happen. So, someone who isn't an underdog at the moment, they're not even in the squad at the moment, is Patrick Aubameyang.
Oh.
He's in the doghouse.
he's again. I think this could be the end for him, or the ending. Because how many times has he been disciplined now and have been dropped? Is this the second or third time now?
I think this might be the third or the second. It's definitely happened. I think it's happened twice before.
It's the second we know of, and I wonder. I'm sure there's another time he's randomly missing, and we never got a reason for it.
I think that was something to do. Wasn't it something he had to go back to or he had malaria
or something? Yeah,
something mad. I can't remember.
So I think because he's a club captain, right? Yeah. So if you're serious about your club, and I think Arteta, I don't think the board are, but Arteta is. He's got a decision to make now, where he's building something new, and because what the rumor goes, and I'm going to say it's a rumor because I don't know if it's official. It was an unauthorized trip that he went on that he was late back from. I think that he flew. That's what I've heard. I think that's in the Athletic, but don't quote me on that. So, and you've got a whole bunch of youngsters. You've got Smith Rowe, Saka. You can put Ramsdale, who's fantastic on the weekend, by the way. And I'm definitely eating my words, and I'm glad Jesse's not here. You've got Ben White.
I said it as well, though.
Yeah, I know, but you're kinder to me. Jesse will ram it down my throat and remind me of voice notes for the rest of the week. But you've got obviously the fullbacks. You've got, I think it's Lokonga. I can't remember how to pronounce his name. So you've got a decision to make whether you want someone like, not like Aubameyang, but doing the stuff that he's doing around them youngsters, or if you want to start phasing them out of the club, and whether you think you can do that. Given in mind, I know I think it was Southampton they played, wasn't it? Southampton aren't in form, but yeah, and he's on massive wages. He's on I think a biggest contract, so don't be surprised to see him in somewhere like China. Where's the other? I can't remember the other countries that pay big, but like the Abu Dhabis and places like that, because that's a bit mad as a captain at Arsenal Football Club on the P's that he's on, to miss a game for his club, the one thing that he trains to do all week, for what could be that reason, or about a disciplinary reason. I don't know. What's your thoughts on that whole situation, and what would you do if you are Arteta?
I think Arteta's in the right though, because I think when you're not just because you're a captain, but you're one of the older players in the team, so you're supposed to be leading by example. You're supposed to be showing the likes of Saka's and Smith Rose and the players that are under them as well the way that the club needs to be ran, and it kind of goes against the manager. Do you know what I mean? Like if you do something and there's a lack
It's
of respect
undermining.
for the
Yeah,
gaffer. Yeah.
yeah.
So I think what happened was, from what I know as well, that they gave him permission to travel somewhere, but he had to be back obviously by a certain time. He wasn't back for that period of
Oh, it
whenever
was
it was.
authorized. Okay, I thought
So
it
I
was
think they
unauthorized, but
authorized the
yeah.
travel.
Okay,
That
fair
wasn't a
enough.
problem. But I think that the reason that there was an issue is because he didn't come back in time. So he's probably been somewhere and whatever's happened, and then he's thought, I missed my flight, or my private jet hasn't cleared the runway, or whatever it is. But it doesn't look good for him, and it doesn't look good for the club either. So I think the club have done the right thing
Yeah,
by doing what they've done, and because they haven't really come out again and said it's because of this or it's because of that, which no club would ever really do that anyway. But the fact that
yeah.
they've
They've
been
handled
able
it
to
well.
keep that, yeah, they've been able to keep a lot of that in house. I think it's good for the club anyway. And to be honest, I kind of agree with you. I think it is kind of the start of the end. I think he's not that this totally different scenarios, but the way that Ozil got his contract and then you just kind of didn't really see him again after that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know it's completely different
A lot of
reasons,
reasons,
so
yeah, but you know
completely
how Arsenal
different.
do,
But
innit? Yeah.
yeah, I think once their decisions kind of made on someone and they don't want to sort of, they're not going to pander to them. They'll start. I think I'm not sure if China's still got the big piece, cause I don't know if China's the one,
Yeah,
but
I
it
was
might
just
be.
thinking. So I listened to something the other day where their league, I think the champions from last year have folded. They don't exist
Yeah, yeah,
anymore now.
the money's gone there. I
Um,
think Abu Dhabi and those kind of places now is where the
Qatar
money is.
and well, maybe Qatar to be fair with the World Cup
Yeah,
coming, but
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
to
But
be fair, he's been dreadful this season. Like he's okay,
he
so
had that.
not dreadful, but
He's not played to what he's getting paid, in my
yeah,
opinion. And if
he's
you're
not
on
doing
them kind of
enough.
wages, yeah, if you're on them kind of wages, you're the captain as well. You kind of, I want to see a bit more from you if I was an Arsenal fan. And luckily for them, they've got Smith Rowe who stepped up this season. Saka has played really well. I've been impressed with Lokonga and Tomiyasu as well. Been really impressed with them this season. Obviously, Odegaard's come in and he done a job as well for them. So and Ramsdale as well, like you said. So they've got players in that team that are wanting to play for the badge and all of that stuff. But with any club, if there's someone who's taking the piss like that, then no one's bigger than any club, and no, even if you're captain, you're on the biggest wages. To them, really, they're probably you're doing them a favor because it just means you get them off the wage bill, and it's a
Yeah,
problem solved for them. And I'm sure there was always talk about him going somewhere else. Anyway, last season, I can't remember what club it was.
yeah.
There was kind of rumors. I think it was somewhere in the Premier League. Maybe even,
Before he signed his contract.
I think so. I can't
That
remember,
was that
but
was United. He was linked with. They were
there you
threatening.
go.
Yeah, yeah. So
But maybe Newcastle, man. Newcastle got the P. They need something to save them.
they definitely get relegated with if he's turning up the weight and sometimes it's not even turning up, they're gonna get relegated.
In fact,
They,
it wouldn't be good for him to be in Newcastle every weekend.
do you know
£1
for
pints.
oh god. For Arsenal though, what I think would be good for them. I know they've got Nketiah, who I think they still putting a lot of faith in, and I hope he does well. I'm
Can I
not.
just stop you though? Can I just stop you?
Why?
You should have scored against Everton, man. I'm sorry. I can't have that.
Oh, yeah, that was. But listen, that happens, isn't it? Like but I think they're putting a lot of faith in them. But I think for Arsenal, what would show me that they are thinking differently and stepping forward is if they sign a player. I'm going to say but probably these guys like a Watkins or an Ivan Toney. I know it's a bit early
Mm.
for Ivan Toney because yeah, he's only had half a season in the Prem, and we don't know. But his mentality tells me that we know the
The
ability is
step up.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the step up.
he's fine. He's fine with that step up. So that would tell me that if they get rid of Aubameyang and get a player like that, Watkins would be good because I think he fits their style of play. He can press, and
Mm.
he's an all rounder, and he can. You can imagine the interchange between him, Saka, Smith Rowe, just interchanging the
Lacazette's
positions.
still there as well.
Lacazette's there, Martinelli if he can stay fit. So, and they've got a couple man in the youth teams as well. So if they can do, if they were to bring someone like that in, they could do a lot of damage. But personally, that's what I think. So yeah. So that's obviously our roundup of the Premier League. So basically, everyone that you thought would won, and they all pretty much did it with penalties, apart from Arsenal.
I think it was 8 penalties.
This is ridiculous, but that's going to happen. Everyone's tired, and it's all of them are tired challengers. But it is what it is, and the Premier League pretty much is the same. I think, apart from Tottenham, who didn't play, but they've got 2 games in hand, and I think could be 4th by the time they play those 2 games in hand. So, yeah, just want to say, obviously, let us know your views. Make sure you tweet us. We're on Twitter or at PTTW Podcast and Instagram. See, remember that? Almost said stay tuned, but didn't. So yeah, we're at the PTTW Podcast. Let us know your thoughts, and if you want to come and join us, do come and join us. We'd love to hear your views. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you again soon.